It's 10 a.m. on Thursday, the 20th of March, 2025. Welcome to Jaseri. This is where we break down the stories shaping conversations across Nigeria. Today we're diving into a move by Nigeria's House of Representatives that has put a spotlight on pornography consumption in Nigeria. Yes, you heard that right. We'll be taking the conversation beyond the ban to look at how society, as well as people's relationships and mental health, are affected by the consumption of this content. This is a convo you don't want to miss. But first, blessings.
But first, while it seems the country's attention was focused on Rivers State following President Tinubu's declaration of a state of emergency and suspension of the state governor, his deputy, as well as the State House of Assembly, things were happening in Kogi State, specifically Kogi Central Senatorial District. And that sounds familiar, right? Well, it should be, because that's the senatorial district of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. Now, videos emerged on Wednesday after that showed people in queues to supposedly recall the senator. Now, they said, or the said recall process against her was reportedly due to dissatisfaction with her performance, particularly in addressing issues like poverty, infrastructure, and education. The exercise began in Okay local government area, where a significant turnout of voters were. However, allegations soon surfaced that some constituents were misled into participating in the recall. Reports also indicate that a town crier invited residents to an empowerment program, but upon arrival, they were asked to provide their voter card and voter identity number in exchange for money.
That we should come for an empowerment. When we get to the seat, we are asked to bring our voter's card and the VIN, the number there. So we now ask why? Because we heard that we should come for the empowerment. So they gave us a form to fill. You fill with your VIN and pen your signature. Then most of us will refuse that we cannot do that because we don't know that an empowerment can be done in this way. So we now left the seat.
Are you here for the recall of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan?
No, sir, we are not. We are here for an empowerment.
But we are not aware about the recall by some group of APC.
No, not at all. No. So we are here for an empowerment. We are not said to be here for an empowerment. And we are given an instruction to come with our voter's card. So that was the instruction given to us, that we should be here with our voter's card for an empowerment. That's all. No, there's nothing like recall. We don't have anything against our senator, for God's sake. So why did we call?
Now, there is a video of a woman... Hold on. There is a video of a woman speaking in Ibira language who seems to be in support of the recall. And we translated it, and she said, "We came to call our senator back because the person there that we all agreed is our senator there got there and started insulting people and fighting. This will not allow Ibira land to be progressive. That is why we want to call our senator back. We can't afford to stay without a senator," end quote. Now, the independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has distanced itself from this supposed recall exercise. The Kogi State's resident electoral commissioner, Gabriel Longpet, has stated that he was unaware of any recall process, mentioning that no official communication had been made to INEC regarding such an initiative. I think we have some headlines. There we go. Now, Wednesday's events follow Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's controversial 6-month suspension from the Senate for alleged misconduct. The recall process in Nigeria involves 3 stages: petition, verification, and referendum. A petition must be signed by more than 50% of registered voters in the affected constituency. INEC will then conduct a verification exercise to confirm the authenticity of the signatures, and if verified, INEC then organizes a referendum where constituents vote on the recall. For it to be successful, over 50% of the total registered voters of the constituency must support the recall. before we talk, because I know Lolo and Catherine are waiting, let's see if we have some reactions. A lot of us were focused on Rivers State yesterday.
Yeah.
So the reactions will be coming in just a moment. A lot of us were focused on Rivers State yesterday. And then the videos, I just started seeing videos trend on social media around 3, 4 yesterday afternoon, and I'm seeing recall process. Recall process that so many have struggled with. I remember a time, was it Dino Milaye, I think, that they were also trying to recall at one point in time. And it's a very difficult process here in Nigeria to recall a sitting senator or a House of Representatives member. But there are provisions for it in the Constitution.
Yeah, but this is an absolute joke because it doesn't hold water.
Because I was going to ask you, how are you doing?
Okay, look. To be honest, she is the representative of my constituency because it's Oke, Adavi, and Ogorima Gongo. And all of this is only happening in Oke local government. It's not even up to 25% of the total registered voters put together. So this is another attempt at weaponizing poverty, because imagine telling them to come for an empowerment and then you're asking them to come with their voters card. So even if they successfully register, like Tolu just read, it goes through a whole lot of process. First of all, the INEC chairman himself must have received the petition. It must have been signed before verification, and then they proceed to referendum. So all of this one is just child's play.
But my question is, if they're saying that, if people are saying this is a recall process, and then they saw the truth before them that they're attempting to recall her, who are the people who are collecting the signatures? Because there's video of people sitting down in queue, writing their names, and people sitting down with higher education, some sort of notebook.
In Nigeria,
who are those people?
No, that is why in Nigeria we have a lot of things on ghost mode. Yes, because if you can have ghost workers in civil service for years and they are collecting salary, how can't you provide ghosts to just register some uneducated or uninformed sets of people to come to a place and just gather, and with the lure of food and poverty, really? Look at all these people. Some people still gather, and now they will tell us they do not know who organized this. This was organized by just some nobody. Because it's not true. We already know that after some time now you hear that, okay, indeed they received the petition, maybe the courier that brought it didn't come to the office straight. You start to hear some funny stories that would justify this kind of funny occurrence. In Nigeria,
Catherine, before we go to reactions, go ahead.
When I first saw the story, I was sleeping. I woke up, I said, let me just check. I saw recall on several occasions. You know, I had to go and check the definition of recall. Because I was saying, recall, is this what I'm thinking? Do these people think it's a joke? There are steps to recall. Then before I went to find out the particular steps before you initiate a recall. And I said to myself, we are just a bunch of clowns in this country. And like Lolo says, and every woman on this table, we've said it, to use poverty to weaponize people. The ones who didn't go to, who are not educated, who are not enlightened, you come, what did we come for? I don't know. They say we should just come. Who is the they? Like Lola says, who will not, everybody who was
on that table, who are
will distance themselves from this occurrence. What are we doing as
and that's why people should be informed. They should have education.
There's a reason that they don't want people to have education.
Because even if they're asking me to sit on a table, would they tell you that, okay, what am I sitting for? Why are they coming here to register? Who is employing me? Those are the kinds of big things they should ask.
Catherine said have common sense. But Catherine, I'm going to reply you and say, what is my business with common sense if I'm hungry? What is my business with common sense if I can't put my kids in school? What is my business with common sense if I'm not sure when the next meal or when the rent is
look at those two women in hijab. Because look at those well-spoken. You will know that Nigeria is tough. That will make those kind of people, I'm sure that those ladies will have some level of education. But who, if they ask you to come and collect a bag of rice now, I will queue for a bag of rice and oil.
Didn't we even notice that, aside bringing them there, because they said they asked them to come for empowerment. But now you found out that it's a recall process and still look at the queue.
No, we don't know what came first. Because there's another video that shows people actually leaving, and it seemed that there was a bit of agitation in how people were leaving. And the report of the video was that was when the people found out that they were attempting to use them to recall Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan. And I think it's very important that we need, yes, that's the video there. But again, remember, with videos and social media, we often have to be very careful of the context. And it's also very important to understand that this very long recall process that is in Nigeria's constitution actually ends up keeping many underperforming senators and House of Representative members in place. And in the history of the country, we've never successfully recalled a national or state legislator, because the same process is the one you would use for state houses of assembly. Let's take some reactions to what happened yesterday. I won't say it's not under the cover of night. All right, they say if her people don't want her, it means she's not good enough for them. They are her people. She must have been bad to them. You can insinuate whatever you like.
What is wrong with people?
It's okay. All this is to divert the attention away from what is currently happening in River State. Unfortunately, it's working. I actually think it's another step in her own ongoing situation, not necessarily related to trying to distract. The people of Kogi Central are expected to speak for her or against her through this process. I don't really see this completely bad. As long as the process is fair and transparent, it's not a bad one. When INEC says they're not aware. Maybe they told them they're voting again to keep her, or possible. Between empowerment is very possible. If this is true, it's another example of how politicians manipulate the people. But then again, both sides play the blame game.
I think we should begin to have sense, because unfortunately, it seems like we're in a season of power being thrown anyhow.
And being used anyhow.
Being used anyhow. So that is a season upon us now. I don't know whether it is taking away from River State or working in tandem with what's going on in River State. All I know is that anything that the government throws out to us to consume and rush towards, it is for us to intentionally divert our attention from what is going on.
I do think everything is under one umbrella. It's power play. Because, see, we've talked about the fact that it's been impossible to recall, right? It will surprise you how easy it will be if you want to recall her. That's just unfortunate, but it's true. The people that hold the power, when they want to do it, it will surprise you how possible.
Look at the alacrity with which a state of emergency was foisted on River State.
And now it seems that things are even escalating.
I thought they had a meeting yesterday.
They had what?
A meeting yesterday.
They'll be having meetings, but the latest we're hearing is that thousands of troops are being deployed into River State. So this thing that Catherine is saying about power is something we're seeing very much playing out in Nigeria. There are separate issues. I remember Lolo saying that the separate issues involving Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, they're there. The Senate committee has made whatever pronouncement has made. You have the allegations of sexual harassment. They're separate issues. But what we're finding is that there are actions that are linking the two.
Together.
Don't come and because what is happening between her issue and up to now the Rivers issue, there's been massive gaslighting of the Nigerian public. Don't tell us what we're seeing is not what we're seeing, or that maybe what our understanding is maybe that we like. Are we stupid?
Exactly. It just makes us know that we as a country, we have a lot of problems. And the people at the helms of affairs, they're not really thinking about the people. It seems that once some sit on that seat, they wear a dark shade that doesn't let them to see through. Because if you truly see for the plight of your people, and the Nigerian public will be asking themselves that, okay, how many laws have come down from this thing that I have benefited from? Now they will pass different kinds of laws at different times. We're going to discuss one that they're going to pass. But we want to see what these things they are doing. How does it translate to the everyday Nigerian? Okay, students will have student loans for uni. There should be follow-up. We should be seeing.
Funny enough, on that one, there's been follow-up, interestingly.
Interestingly. It might be follow-up because you know. But the follow-up is something that should be public. So that a lot of people can... Do you know that even as much as you say that these laws are passed, some people do not even know that they have it till now. What's the point of a law sitting in a book when it does not translate?
It does not impact the lives of people.
It doesn't impact the lives of the people. Those are the things that Nigeria should be fighting for. What are you doing there in the house? Okay, how does this affect my constituency? When some of them will do constituency projects with government money and they'll put your name on it as a label. And you're wondering that who is fooling who?
We're all fooling ourselves. Exactly. I want to quote Shakespeare here, but...
Anyway, we will be going. The House of Representatives' bold move to ban access to pornographic sites across the country has put the spotlight on this type of explicit content. How does pornography shape perceptions of intimacy? Can it become an addiction? And what impact is it having on individuals and society at large in Nigeria? After the break, we have a psychotherapist and a mental health counselor, Dr. Safaya Ikechukwu. She joins us to dive into this topic, which is often swept under the carpet because we're afraid of it. Stay with us because this conversation is going to be really interesting.
Welcome back to Jaseri, where we tackle the issues that matter. Now join the conversation via our social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. On the 11th of March, Nigeria's House of Representatives moved a motion banning access to pornographic sites across the country. Katsina Representative Dalhatu Taufiki sponsored the motion, calling it a step to, quote, protect societal values, end quote. For too long, we have brushed the issue of pornography under the carpet as awkward, uncomfortable, or too difficult to solve. But it is crucial that we don't shy away from discussing the nature, scale, and impacts of online pornography. In a world where it is a click away from any child, I'm talking about any child, no child should be able to stumble across it online. Joining us today to bring into the light that which many would prefer to keep in the dark is psychotherapist and mental health counselor, Dr. Safaya Ikechukwu. We have a lot of ground to cover, and I know the ladies were going to diverse from all of our questions, so we're going to have to go straight into it. Dr. Ikechukwu, thank you so much for joining us on Jaseri.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're so gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
Do you need water? Because the questions are going to be coming right back, and I'm going to start.
Okay.
If you need water, please let us know.
No
You're
problem.
so pretty, Sha.
Why are you being nice to her?
Oh my God.
You want to claim another guest?
There's no like claim guest. Safaya is mine.
No, wow.
God. So, Doc, welcome to the show. Let's go straight into it. So, pornography addiction is a pattern of compulsive engagement with pornography that interferes with daily life, relationships, emotional well-being as well. It's often linked to underlying mental health, such as anxiety, such as depression or impulsive control disorders, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so while there's been more conversations about mental health, in the past several years, it's not enough. In Nigeria, it's sad, actually, that anywhere from 25 to 30% of the population has a mental health issue. However, less than 10% of these actually get professional treatment. Question is, what's the impact of pornography consumption on one's mental health? I think we have an idea, but we don't know the extent.
Okay, first of all, there's the chance of addiction. That's number one. Consistent consumption of porn it leads to them getting compulsive, desires for this, and also it could lead to desensitization. A couple of them begin to think that, there's more reliance on this, and then before you know it, it has become their way of life, and then they normalize these things. And then, okay, like you also said, it leads to increase of mental health disorders. Anxiety is on the rise, and because there's a lot of guilt and shame because of what they are doing. They are, and in Nigeria as a whole, there's this whole shroud around anything sexual and all of that, and then you're doing this thing that it's supposedly not, accepted. Yeah. So they're feeling guilty, they are shy, they are ashamed, and so they isolate, and that exacerbates the anxiety, the depression, and low self-esteem issues that is on the rise with people who who have consumed porn or on a daily.
Okay, so I would also like for you to translate the statistics for us, and that's early exposure. Now, research has shown that the early exposure can impact the developing brains of children. Like how early you're exposed to it can affect the frequency of exposure in the future. It also shows that the age of first exposure and frequency of exposure were shown to be closely linked to the likelihood of a young person viewing violent content online, and frequent users are also more likely to have real-life experience of an aggressive or degrading sex act. Can you translate that for us?
Okay, the thing is, before I go into that, I would have to say that not everyone who has been exposed at an early age to this content will get to that level of, having real life, degrading acts and all of that. Some of them just take it in stride and, hey, it is what it is. They enjoy it and they move on. But one of the things you can be afraid of is normalization. When they start watching this thing from a very young age, you know, the young mind is very impressionable.
Yeah.
So by the time they watch these things, they see it, they're like looking at it, oh, okay. It becomes, you know, the norm for them. So they come out as they grow older, they're like, oh, you know, so this is the norm. You know, this is what it is. That's how it's supposed to be, you know. And consistent watching of these degrading acts can actually make them also begin to think that that's how it's meant to be. So they find it very difficult to have regular relationships where they can do regular things. It's now like that is how it is meant to be because this is what I have been seeing almost all my life. And so they base all their understanding on that.
Well, you know,
very dangerous.
It's very dangerous, and it's quite interesting you talk about that because for young brains, they don't understand that this thing is actually scripted. It's produced. It is. It's put on for a certain effect. It's not real. And just thinking about how many children we put a poll out yesterday, and I hope we'll get that very soon, asking people how early they were exposed to pornography. And when you see the results, a lot of people will be wondering.
You know, since we're talking about young people, I think so many, like last year when my first son was in school, I did go to the school and I saw a group of them talking. And I talked about the addiction of pornography and gambling. You should see the faces of these young adults that it's like, hey, mama, you know, what's wrong with this aged one? This is normal. And we're talking about students in secondary school. So let's be honest. That means many Nigerian youths, many young people are consuming pornography on a daily. And some statistics has even come out. Let's look at the one that Ogun State found out. About 83% of students in 2 universities watched online pornography. That's Ogun State. In Sokoto State, it shows about 95.4% of students had seen pornographic content before or are currently watching. But it's not just young people. Unfortunately, there isn't a lot of data about consuming this type of content in Nigeria. I want to know if you think we as a society, we have a problem on our hands, or how big this problem is. Because sometimes, because we don't have the accurate data, you know, most of the time when we talk about this, we have to infer data from out of state or out of the country to be able to look. Because before, I never believed until last year, and I can tell you that we have a thriving Nigerian pornographic industry. Before, I would say, okay, maybe outside the country, but in Nigeria,
it is happening.
It is happening. So how big is this scale? What are we looking at?
Sadly, Nigeria being what it is, we do not have data that we can actually say, okay, and also this is due to a lot of religious, you know, proclivities, a lot of, what's it called? I mean, you know how Nigeria is, let's be honest.
Very moralistic.
Yeah, culture, so much moral, you know. So we don't have that data that would actually need, but we can infer that, you know, due to the rise of all these technological smartphones, things that, you know, people can actually just pick up, accessibility, easy accessibility to all these things, this is going to increase. And then there's going to be a whole lot, if you're asking me if it's going to be much of a problem, yes, I actually do think it will be
because
a bit of a problem as we go.
94.5 or 95 in Sokoto State, that's quite...
It's very high.
It's not very high, it's everything.
It's everyone,
it's everything, because that's just a few more minutes away from 100%.
Okay, let's look at another part, because you touched on something in terms of how it can impact relationships and the understanding of relationships. So a lot of pornographic content emphasizes male power and control, portraying men as dominant figures who take charge in sexual encounters. And on the other hand, women are presented as objects of male desire and pleasure, reducing their value to their physical appearance, and sexual availability rather than their intelligence, emotions, or even their own autonomy. This portrayal not only reinforces traditional gender roles, but also shapes how individuals perceive relationships and intimacy. When exposed to these stereotypes repeatedly, men may internalize the belief that dominance and aggression are expected in their interactions, while women may feel pressured to conform to submissive roles, often at the expense of their own desires. So, in terms of doing this conversation, there's the word consumption, then there's the word addiction. And I like the point that you have made, that some people can consume and not become addicted and be able to, it rolls off their back like a duck. But it's not for a lot of people. A lot of people will battle this secret addiction for a long time. So in terms of that, I want us to look at the excessive consumption leading to emotional detachment and how it can impact intimate and romantic relationships and even sometimes lead to infidelity.
Yes, it can. It actually can impact on, you know, emotional. Let me put it this way. So there's a lot of emotional instability with people who have a high use or high consumption of porn. Because, like I said, again, don't forget, because they keep watching these things become the norm for them. You know, you just said that, you know, it puts men in the dominant role and women in the submissive role. And, you know, consistently watching this thing makes them say, oh, you know, I'm the man, you know. And that's when you see a lot of narcissistic behavior towards real life experiences. So when they have a relationship, they cannot function properly. They want what they have been told in their brains,
what they have been shown
that this is the real thing. So they try to translate that into the real life, and it doesn't work. And I mean, imagine being a partner to someone who is like this. Of course, there will be a lot of arguments, there'll be a lot of fights, there'll be a lot of, you know, trust issues, and then at the end of the day, there's obviously infidelity. It is not far off. So yes, it can impact negatively.
Do you know, I just want, because we're talking about impact, how about a lot of people, I've been under a teaching that has said, for those that watch pornography, that the addiction is like you're addicted to substances.
Yes.
In fact, I saw a diagram of a brain.
Yes, it's a dopamine, right?
Some effect of the chemical combination or composition of the brain. It totally impacts it, like you are having a physical addiction to maybe cocaine, all those narcotics and drugs. So that means I'm just throwing that, could this be a compulsion that can be controlled?
And
like
to add to that, it's also said that the more you consume this and are addicted to this, it reduces your satisfaction with the actual intimacy.
Yes, it does. Because let's be honest, you are, it's like you start off with one. And, you know, as with anything that has to do with addiction, there's a lot of tolerance. Your body gets tolerance to these things. It's like, oh, you start with one tablet, before you know it, your body has developed a tolerance to it, you increase to 2, before you know it, your body develops another tolerance to it, you keep, so they keep looking for higher, you know, things that would give them that feeling of arousal. What actually started it? It's no longer the way it's meant to be. So they're just, you know, looking for more. And so that's how they continue to go from the regular ones to the degrading acts, to the violent act, to the crazy ones, and, you know, they keep going, you know, because that feeling that they need to get them going, they're not getting it anymore. So it's a consistent thing for them. They keep going on and on and on without stopping.
Let's take a break. There's a lot more on this conversation. We're also going to touch on particularly the impact of exposure to pornography on men and women, as well as young girls, because it's not only men and boys that consume pornography, it's also young women and girls as well. And then also dealing with the addiction. Stay with us.
Forward.
No. Wow! Sometimes you need to pray to be a fly on the wall in our off-air conversations or during the breaks. Unfortunately, time is not with us. But my head is on Atiku on these conversations we're having. But Dr. Ikechukwu, when are you coming back? We have just scratched the surface, and there's a lot more to talk about in regards to how pornography's consumption and addiction to pornography can affect society, relationships, and even psychological health. So when are we expecting you back?
Next week.
Okay, fine, fantastic. We have that confirmation. Dr. Ikechukwu is going to be back with us next week. But as we go and wrap up things today, just telling you we're coming from a press conference with the former Vice President of Nigeria, Atiku Abubakar, as well as former Governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, where both have confirmed that there is a coalition in play, whether it's a movement or a party. We're getting the details of that coming your way, of course. A coalition is in play to attempt to remove the All Progressives Congress from power in 2027. The former vice president also demanded that the president take better action in regards to the Rivers State declaration of the state of emergency, asking him to reverse it. So there's an immediate reversal. This is their demand and call to action. Immediate reversal to revoke the unconstitutional proclamation and reinstate the elected governor of Rivers State. That also that the National Assembly should reject this move by the president. Yesterday it was meant to be up for discussion, but we heard that that was deferred. Hopefully today we'll be hearing conversations and discussions in the National Assembly regarding the president's move for a state of emergency. Also that there should be judicial intervention and that Nigerians must rise up to defend democracy as well. There's a major conversation ongoing, so we want to, of course, keep you here with us right here on News Central for all the latest. Don't forget, when we started at the top of the hour, it was recall attempts of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, and we're hearing from INEC that they don't know anything about it. So major stories developing, and one thing we can promise you is that Jaseri and News Central will have all the latest for you. We have to say bye for now. We'll see you guys tomorrow. It's Hot Topic Special. We have a very special guest tomorrow, and Dr. Ikechukwu will be back with us next week. But until next time, it's bye for now. Bye-bye.